One of my clients has a relatively new management team in place, and so each month I've been checking up with each of the members to see how things are progressing. And I was in discussion with the ops manager last month, and he said he thought the management team was going really well because there hadn't been any arguments so far. And he said it like that was a good thing. To me, that was an alarm bell, and it's as much a sign of a dysfunctional management team as it is a sign of a productive and well-run one. Because the truth is, tensions exist between individuals and functions in pretty much every successful commercial company. This is not a matter of good or bad behaviour, it's a statement of reality. So let's talk about it a little bit. So classically, this tension exists between sales and operations, but I've also found tensions between all kinds of support and line functions and between various individuals. And these tensions are caused by the inevitable conflict of approaches, attitudes and priorities, which I refer to as functional bias. Not only is this normal, I think it may be crucial, because this level of tension is what propels innovation and creativity in the business and keeps it moving forward. So the problem is not the level of tension or disagreement. The problem is how well or not that tension is managed within the company. So during my corporate career, I worked for two giants, Tesco's and Orange, and they both had distinctively different ways of managing that tension in the boardroom. Now at Tesco's, I was in a relatively junior executive role, so I didn't get a whole bunch of exposure to the main board directly, but I did work with people who regularly interfaced with the board. And I also used to share the smoking room with one of the directors who sat on the main board. So I used to get quite a bit of insight from him while we were puffing away. And one day I asked him what it was like in a main board meeting. And he said it was like open warfare. He said there was lots of banging of the table and pointing of fingers and shouting at each other. But it all stayed in the boardroom. And when a decision was reached by the board, they unified around it so that as far as the rest of the organisation was concerned, the board was fully aligned and everyone was clear about what direction we were taking. Now, Orange, on the other hand, was a completely different kettle of fish, and I had much more experience there of actually presenting and debating with the board. And their board meetings were more like a series of presentations, and there seemed to be very little discussion and certainly very little animated discussion around the board table. And the result is that if a decision ever was made, which wasn't that often, that functional directors who didn't really agree with the decision just didn't act on it and carried on doing what they were normally doing. And this resulted in a form of guerrilla warfare across the organisation, and it meant that every time we tried to initiate any type of major change programme, it kind of got hamstrung and we never moved anything forward. And God knows how many millions of pounds this kind of behaviour must have cost that business. Now, I'm not suggesting either one of those extremes is the right answer, but you might look at your own company and go, where is the pendulum in terms of leadership team behaviour in your company? And does it need to swing the other way a little bit? Because it should be possible to have a robust exchange of opinions and views in a management team meeting without resorting to interpersonal warfare. It kind of helps if everyone's working off the same shared data and that there's a sense of kind of common purpose that the board are aiming at. But it also starts with the behaviours of the individual members on the team. So again, recently, the finance director of another client of mine said to me, "You know what, Dave, it's really hard work working with people that are so nice." Now, initially, I just laughed at that statement until I saw it for the profound truth that it actually is. Because sooner or later, a culture of nice, which I suppose could stand for no one inside cares enough, overtakes the commercial imperative, and decisions start to be made and conversations start to be had that more about protecting individual interests and making sure everyone's okay, rather than tackling the commercial priorities of the company. And then you get people that become reluctant to speak up or say what's on their mind, purely because they don't want to upset others. This is the rot setting in. And once it takes a hold, I have a feeling it causes more damage than anything else that can happen in a company. So if you think your company may be at this point, grab a flip chart at your next leadership team meeting and ask the board that if we're to deliver on the fullest potential of the company and execute our strategy, what are the behaviours that we need to continue to encourage amongst ourselves and amongst others in the business that will help us move forward? What shifts in behaviours do we need to achieve in order to reach the next level of business growth and evolution? And how do we embody and communicate the right behaviours and track and monitor them to make sure that they're followed? You get the answers to those three questions, and at least you'll have a good starting point.